If you're sending out emails and getting ghosted or spending hours researching leads only to hear nothing back, this video will save you time. I'm going to show you exactly how I use AI to automate lead research, lead outreach, and follow up. With this system, you can book 50 to 100 sales calls every month. No spam, no guessing, and yes, I'm giving away these templates for free. This system is in three parts. The first one is the leads database. It contains information about the leads, the company, the job information. We have a column for the research reports. We're going to come back to that. Then the status, the person's LinkedIn, the company's LinkedIn, and some additional information about the company. The second part is the lead research workflow. What it does, we have a trigger, then we use OpenAI along with some prompts and our search API model. We actually use that to actually research the company and the leads. That way we can actually get a comprehensive report on who this person is and what this company is about. Then we update it back into the database. That way we can actually use this information to compose our intro email. Now, the third part of this system is the lead outreach workflow, which also, along with the lead research report and the information about the individual and the company, we actually compose an intro email dedicated for this person. And we also now send this email back to ourselves, to the internal team, to approve this email just in case we like it or we want it to be worked on, or we want to give the AI feedback to actually revisit the email. Then once we're happy with the email, then we send the email using our Gmail account, and we check if the email bounces, giving us bounce protection. Now, if it bounces, we don't continue anymore. We simply just mark this lead as ignored, or we save, whatever is the reason for the bounce. Now, we also have some additional delays, such that after a certain period of time, we send the follow up. Again, we check for bounce and we handle it, and we delay again and we send our final follow up. Then we mark the workflow as completed. So I'm just going to show you a demo of how it works. So coming back here, I'm going to take one of these leads and I'm going to update the workflow status as queued, as a research queued. This way, it actually starts the research process. Now, once I do that, I come back here. We see that a new instance has been created, and now the research process for these leads is actually going to start. He updated the record to actually show that yes, the research has started. That's researching. Then now it's going to OpenAI to actually perform the research on the lead. Now the research is done, and now our database has been updated. Let's come back here. Now we see that the status is now research done. In terms of the actual research, we see that report generated via workflow, and we have a whole bunch of information about this lead. I can expand it here, so we will see the full research. Now we actually see email analysis about the company, about the leadership, the company positioning, the gaps, conclusion, along with a confidence score. Now, if we're happy with the status of this research and we want to send this lead into our lead outreach, we simply come here and we send the workflow status as queued, and it gets put into our lead outreach workflow. And if we see here, we see that it has been picked up, and now it's using OpenAI to actually generate an intro email for this lead. Now that is done. It has actually sent us an email to actually review the email that was sent and actually approve it. Now I'm going to open this. So it says, "I am Mohammed. I notice your company's commitment to providing tailored career transition consulting service and a whole bunch of things." Now we can decide that we're happy with this email or we're not happy with this email, and we just click on the link. Now if we're happy with it, we just click on approve. But in this case, I want to show you guys, the power of human in the loop here, where you can actually give the AI feedback to actually work on this email and give you a revised version of this email. So I'm just going to say, give me something more compelling, include research and add facts. And I'm just going to send it. Now we come back here. This is going to get picked up in a moment. Yeah, it has been picked up, and now it is actually following this step back and it's generating a new content, and the new content has been generated and it has actually been sent back to me. So I come back here. So it says that I I notice Randstad's USA's dedication to supporting individuals through career transitions, which is vital in today's competitive landscape. As your team manages numerous clients' journeys, operational efficiency can become a bottleneck. It goes on and on and on and on. Now, if I'm happy with this email, I can either approve it or I can decide to like ask the AI to actually rework it. But in this time, I'm actually just going to approve it. So I just approve and submit. And I'm going to come back here. You would see that it's going to get picked up again. Awesome. Okay, so now it has actually gotten picked up and now it has actually gone to the branching and seen that yes, it's actually approved and it has actually sent the first email. After sending the first email, now it's checking to see if the email bounced. So we're just gonna wait a bit. Okay, so now it's done. So as we can see here, the email clearly did not bounce. So now it's actually sending it's actually following a delay and it's already scheduled the follow-up email. Now, this is for a case where like, everything goes well. I'm going to show you another scenario where it actually bounces. For this particular lead, I already like confirmed that the email bounced, but I'm actually going to show you the bounce protection within this workflow. That way, once it bounces the first time, we don't keep following up again. So I'm just going to go to another lead. I'm going to use this one. And again, we're going to put the workflow status as research queued. That way it fires off the research process. And we'll just come back here. So we see that yes, it has been picked up. Now the research is underway. Now the research is done. So we come here, research done, and again we can see the status of the research along with the confidence score at the bottom of the email 0.85. Now if we're happy with this, we can simply just queue this lead to take the lead into the lead outreach workflow. And if we see here, this has actually been picked up. Now an intro email has been generated and has been sent to us for us to approve. I'm just going to approve it so it just goes immediately. Now, as we can see here, it's checking if the email bounced. But one thing you can, if you guys can see, so there's actually a delay here. So I set a delay for 2 minutes. Just from what I observed, whenever we send an email, like within the first 2 minutes, um, we'll either get a response back that the email bounced. If not, we can assume that the email got delivered. In this case, so like it's delaying for 2 minutes, then it's actually going to check whether or not it bounced. Okay, so now it's actually done. And if we can see here, we see that yes, the email actually bounced. I'm just going to show you guys the task output here. Yes, you see that yes, it actually bounced along with the reason address not found. Your email wasn't delivered because the address could not be found or is unable to receive email. And we see here it actually updates the record. And if we come back here now, we can actually see that we will mark the workflow status as ignored, and we also added an additional note called email at bounce with a reason, and we also updated our status that issue with contact. That way we know that we're never reaching out to this contact anymore. So yeah, that is the workflow. We've already seen the database, so I'm not going to go over that. We're just going to focus on the first workflow. And if I come here, we'll see that we set up um, our triggers on record updated. And the database is this leads and opportunity database that we have here. And in terms of the filter, so this will get triggered whenever the workflow status contains research queued. So whenever we set the status as the workflow status as research queued, this is going to automatically pick it up. Now, at the very next step, we set the workflow status to researching. Then we use the GPT-5 search API model to actually find information about this particular lead. So we have a system prompt here, you're a research assistant for cold outreach. I'll provide you some information about the lead and all. Like this can actually be tweaked. The difference between this and the regular GPT models is the fact that for this GPT-5 model, it actually has web search actually configured with it. So by just calling this model along with this prompt, it's by default going to run a web search, as opposed to like the other models where we need to provide web search as a tool to the model. So in this particular model, we don't actually need to provide it. It's just going to run the web search itself and give us our results. So we have our system prompt here. Obviously, we can tweak this system prompt. Then we also have our actual prompt. the information about the lead, then everything else just remains the same. Whenever we work with AI models, they tend to return responses in terms of fences. In, for example, for IDs like VS Code, cursors, anti-gravity, whenever they are working with AI models and they want to return, a particular code, say in TypeScript, the code itself is actually going to be wrapped in a JSON fence or in an actual like fence in a code fence. That way, the IDE knows that, oh yeah, this is actually a code. If it's a markdown, then it's going to be wrapped in a markdown fence. If it's different kind of formats, it's going to be wrapped in like some form of fence. That way, the ID knows what it's expecting and how to actually interpret it. So what we do here is actually we use this code step to actually remove the fence, then clean up the JSON. That way we can actually have the cleaned JSON information. And if we can see here, the output here is actually, if you look at the JSON, is the reports along with the confidence. Now, in the very, very next step, we go back and update the database with the report information as well as updating the status to the research done, and the workflow ends. Now, going back to the other workflow, our trigger is also on the leads and opportunities database, but instead on record updated. But this time, the filter is when the workflow status contains queued and the email is not empty. Obviously, we can add more filters and all, but like this is sufficient for what we need. So whenever we set the workflow status as queued, then and the email is actually not empty, then it's going to automatically get picked up here. So the next thing we do is to actually update the status to in progress. That's the workflow status to in progress. The next thing we do is we actually use AI to generate an intro email using a prompt here, as well as providing information about the leads here. And obviously, like we provide an example for the AI to use as a reference when creating the email. This very next step, we set the intro email that has been generated. We set it as a variable, and I'm going to show you why subsequently. Now, in the next step, we create an input link. So this is an input link with a form. That way we can give approval or we can give feedback or both. In the case where we want the AI to actually revisit this, write a better intro email, then we definitely use this to provide that feedback. The next step, we send the email to ourselves. In the case of like an actual business, like the email is actually going to be sent to possibly like a group email where anybody from the team can review it and approve it. And obviously, like there's a link here to provide feedback. Then yeah, we just wait for approval. We basically tell the workflow to actually just wait until we approve. Either we approve or we give a feedback. But like we wait until we provide a feedback in the form. Now, the very next step, we have a branching. So we check if approved. That's this wait for input. We check if the approved is equal to true. So if it's equal to true, then it continues to this phase. It goes back and it sets the intro email in the database and it continues to send in the email. But in the event that the if is approved is not true, that means it doesn't get selected, then it actually comes back here. And this time we have a similar prompt as the first time, but at the bottom of the prompt, we actually have this additional prompt saying a previous email was created which was not approved by the user. Please create a new email incorporating the feedback below. Then we provided the feedback, then we provided the old email. And now the AI is actually going to generate a new email. Then the new email is set into the outreach email variable. And now we actually go back to this previous step where we created an input link. We send the email to ourselves. We wait for the input. Then once the input is provided, we decide whether or not we're going to approve or not. If it gets approved, it continues. If it doesn't get approved, then it just goes back here and the loop continues. Now, in the event that this email actually gets approved, now we just come here and we send the email to the person. Obviously, like we set the two. We can set CC or we can set the BCC. We set the subject, we set the body, and we send it immediately. Then after that, we have a delay for 1 minute. So 1 to 2 minute delay is usually sufficient to detect whether or not an email has bounced. Then we also use this node to check if the email has bounced. And if the email bounces, we're actually going to see it here. We'll see that the bounce is either true or false. In this case, it's true. And now we go to the next node, which is our branching node. Again, we check is it bounced? So if check his email is bounced, if it's equal to true, then we know that yes, it actually bounced. But if it's false, then we know it did not bounce and we'll continue. In the event it's actually true, so we update the database and we set the field to update the additional notes. Email bounced with the bounce type along with the reason for the bounce. Now we set the status as issue with contact and the workflow status, we set it as ignore. So this workflow is going to end. Now, as you see here, there's no further step after this workflow node. So the workflow actually ends at this point. But in the event that it didn't, the email did not bounce, then we simply come here. We set a delay for 7 days. Now, this delay could really be anything. You can decide, within your team to have a delay for 3 days, to have a delay for 4 days, to have a delay for 2 weeks, whatever. Then the very next step, we send a follow-up. Now we use the same subject as previously. That way it's actually sent into the same thread as opposed to a new email, totally in a different thread. The end user doesn't exactly see a sequence such that the first email, and this second email is following it. So we just maintain the subject. That way the email goes into the same thread. And now we just have a delay. This time we have a delay of 2 minutes. 1 minute or 2 minutes is more than sufficient. Again, we check if the previous email that we sent in step 18 bounced. If it bounces, then obviously we set the additional note again that it bounced. We set the status as issue with contact, and we set the workflow status as ignore. And if it doesn't bounce, again we delay for 7 days in this case, but like this could be modified, to any number of days you want, or you can delay to a particular date. Actually, like that might not be advisable since whenever you this is something that will run whenever you get triggered, so you might want to use a relative as opposed to like an absolute date. But after that we simply send a final follow-up referencing the original email. Again, we keep the subject the same as before, and yeah, we send this email, and after that we just end the workflow. So with this kind of workload, we have three touch points, which is the first email, the first follow-up, and the second follow-up. But this can actually be extended into five touch points, six touch points, seven touch points. And if we have information like the phone number or even the WhatsApp number, we can also add integration steps to reach out to this person via SMS, to reach out to this person via WhatsApp to start a conversation. You can even have multi touch points. We can use other integrations to reach out to this person via the social media link if we have those information. And yeah, we can basically have as many touch points as we want. But for the sake of this demo, I just stop at 3. So yeah, this is what the full system looks like. And this along with the other templates, this one, both of them are actually provided, as a JSON file that you can actually import, into your Open Dashboard workspace. The database as well is also provided for you to import into your Open Dashboard workspace as well. So yeah, this is a system that you use to actually automate your research. As I've said, you automate your outreach and book as many calls as possible. And one other interesting thing at this is this can actually work at scale. So if you notice in the previous ones, I've been marking the status one by one for the individual leads one by one. But in the event that I simply want to like automate all of this one, so currently I have 9 leads in this particular database. But a lot of sales teams, they usually have quotas of people they would want to reach out to every day. Some teams can have a quota of 20 outreach per day, some teams 50 outreach, some teams 100, depending on the size of the team. You could simply like select all of the leads you want, and we can do a batch update. So I'm just going to do this workflow status, and I'm going to set this to research queued. Now, as soon as I save this, it's actually going to trigger a research for every one of them. Obviously, I don't want to do that in this case, but that's actually what's going to happen. The other thing we also want to keep in mind when working with batch is that there's usually rate limits for a lot of these platforms. For example, OpenAI, specifically for this model, I believe he has when it comes to a token limit per minute, I think it's around 45,000 tokens per minute, which means it's going to run about 5 to 10 research in a minute before you start to get an error around timeout. So you just need to keep that in mind whenever we are batching leads like that. But other than that, yeah, you can reach out to as many leads as you want, and this system scales really, really well. From just a few leads, per day to thousands of leads per week, per month. So yeah, the links to the templates and to the database are provided in the comment section. So yeah, looking forward to you guys, leveraging this and improving your outreach and research process. Take care.